Bret's got to understand. Here's what Bret's got to understand. What he's saying is not wrong. But Bret has to understand, man, there are people that fell into his category, and there are people that fell into Hulk's category. Hulk wasn't the only one who was protecting his spot and didn't want to pass the baton. Trust me, he was not the only one.
All right, let's talk about Bret Hart. Bret Hart strikes again, man. You gotta love Bret, man. He's just, if there's one person who don't give two craps about coming to the WWE, it's Bret Hart, ladies and gentlemen, hands down. He said this in Germany. He said he never helped anybody else after his time was being the top guy. He would rather see the company sink than actually come back.
He's talking about Hogan, right?
He's talking about Hogan. He never helped anybody else after his time was being in the top guy. He would rather see the company sink than actually come back and help make the next star, which in wrestling, that's kind of how it always works. The next guy builds the next guy after. It's like everybody helps each other kind of thing. This has been the same song. This is the same type of rhetoric for Bret Hart. Like it's like go to if you put a tab on a chapter, with the colored tab, you know what chapter it is. And so basically it's like, hey, this is the blue tab. The blue tab is someone has to make someone look good. That's how we do in pro wrestling. The yellow tab is no one hurts people. The blue, the green tab is, you got to make sure that you pay back the business and, you have a good relationship with people. You don't want to burn bridges. Like it's this same type of, chapter rhetoric. What's different in this comment?
Bret's got to understand. Here's what Bret's got to understand. What he's saying is not wrong. But Bret has to understand, man, there are people that fell into his category, and there are people that fell into Hulk's category. Hulk wasn't the only one who was protecting his spot and didn't want to pass the baton. Trust me, he was not the only one. So Bret's right. Bro, again, you got to go back to Stu Hart. You got to go back to the dungeon. This is how Bret was taught. This was ingrained in Bret. So I get it 1,000%. Hulk had a different kind of upbringing in the business. You know what I mean? And Hulk was in a business where everybody, man, wanted his spot. I don't know if Bret was ever in that position. There was a time when everybody in the business wanted Hulk's spot. So Bret is correct, but let's not just point out Hulk, because there are a lot of wrestlers that went down that same road.
Yeah, I think Bret constantly makes, considerable points. I mean, and what he says, he's been saying the same stuff for 20 years at this point. You know what I mean? So I think Bret makes considerable points. It's just the same variation of the same point he's been making for 20 years. Either it's Hulk or it's Triple H. Or
you know what's interesting to me though, Chris? You said starting this conversation about this isn't one guy looking to get hired by the WWE. Man, bro, Bret's career ended prematurely, because he got hurt by Goldberg. So he didn't have your typical retirement where he could still work. He couldn't work anymore. And bro, I got to tell you, either Bret saved his money or invested his money wisely. But I mean, for Bret to really go on this long without getting hired by an AEW or without getting hired by a WWE, taking into consideration how shortened his career was.
Yeah.
Bro, he's doing something right if he's still out there making a living.
That's true. Well, he shows up in conventions a lot. So, he makes that nice chunk of change often. But yeah, I mean, to your point, he hasn't, I think it was like 2010 or something like that Vince brought him back, and he had that feud with him at WrestleMania. And I think he ended up winning the U.S. Championship too. That was a very interesting comeback from Bret Hart. but at least it's been, 15 years since he's been, in the ring, so to speak, as far as just in the WWE. So, I mean, I'm with you, man. I think Bret Hart's clearly doing something right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I respect that. I do respect that he's like, I'm not going to say something that could offend because there's that crack in the door that he's like, man, I don't care about that. I think Bret Hart's like 66 years old now. So he's just like, are you kidding? You think I care about getting a job in the WWE? So it always makes for an interesting week when we know that Bret Hart's being interviewed by somebody. That we do know. So.
Yes.
This guy right here is Vince Russo. I am Dr. Chris. This is Writing with Russo. Have a good night, everybody. Solo.